everyone, welcome back. Today we're discussing a complex topic of narcissism, and we're back with our expert psychotherapist Maria Shenkman, and today Diana, Chicago business owner, joining our conversation.
Hi everybody, nice to be here with such a nice and powerful woman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely, indeed, it's a complex topic that you can explore and elaborate on for many interviews or hours, and it's all in our human experience. Any person probably have encountered or dealt with a narcissistic type of person. We're not going to focus too much on the clinical piece and the diagnosis because it's one of the most difficult diagnoses out there because it's not easy to diagnose it. Narcissists don't come to therapists asking to be diagnosed or whether they have problems because they don't feel like they do.
I know that we all can relate to this problem I would call narcissism, right?
I would call more as an experience.
Experience.
Yeah, I think whatever we face in our life, it's always experience, which can make us weaker or stronger, which can create a problem or experience.
Or both.
Or both.
People respond to it differently.
Yeah.
It's a good point you bring up because for some people it becomes a devastating experience that affects their life and they may not be able to come out of it versus someone who is able, whether it's because of their support system, resilience, things that they put in place to overcome it. And they are able to learn and become even stronger. And I think you've had that happen a lot in your life.
Yeah, half of my life, pretty much, yeah. I was able to survive 2 narcissistic marriages and 1 close relationship with narcissists. And I proudly survived that, and I want to help other women to feel that they're not alone in this issue. Very important to create this close relationship with each other so we can share this experience and help other women to understand that nothing wrong with them especially, but that's the people who making them feel wrong about themselves and help them to feel through it and get out of it healthier and stronger instead of killing themselves or being unhappy to the rest of their life.
Getting depressed.
Yeah.
And since we have expert in our table, to get started, let's define narcissism.
Well, narcissism, the traditional term, involves sense of grandiosity, self-importance, over-exaggerated self-importance, excessive need for admiration, excessive. And there are different types of narcissism, and we're still learning about it. Again, it's a very convoluted topic because it's not like narcissists are offering themselves to be studied. A lot of times they don't even acknowledge that they have these traits.
Most of the time, I would say.
Yes, and it's very rare for narcissists to, admit to having these traits.
And I want to just ask you a question. Some people been born narcissists, right? So they missing that empathic zone that they don't even know that they're sick. So it's not a disease per se, it's a condition, right?
It's a disorder, right? So if we call it, we're talking about narcissistic personality disorder. What's a disorder? It's out of order. I wouldn't say people are born with it. Mm-hmm. There's definitely a genetic component to it and certain personality traits that, develop and put together, and there's some genetic component to it. But the environment plays a huge role in becoming a narcissist, right?
Which is how they brought up, their parents' relationships, and a lot of things.
And a lot of factors that, we don't always know. Yes, there's certain specific factors, but also there's factors like if they were shamed when they were a child, and they have specific traits, or embarrassed to a point. It doesn't have to be by family. It can be by school, peers, friends, other kids. And this is how they respond to the environment, basically, creating this defense system. And again, lack of empathy, because nobody validated their feelings. They didn't empathize with them at the time. They perceive it as, personal attack, and they feel like anything to do with someone disliking what they do or how they act or, what they believe in is a personal attack, and they need to defend. And a lot of times their form of defense is an attack.
So it's basically an evolution mechanism to protect themselves against some trauma in their well-being. So they basically are closing themselves in their own little place where they can be that way. It's not necessarily everyone. We're talking in some cases could be that way. Some cases could be childhood trauma. And I've read some literature which says that some people can be born without empathy. So it's kind of like genetic disease where the people are being brought to this world without feeling any of the empathy. It could be even from childhood when they were still in their mother's womb and they actually were attacked some way. So they created that mechanism as a protection against the world even before they were born.
It's possible, but again, the environment plays a huge role.
That's definitely
Again, this
you as a doctor have that determination based on the study, and I actually judge based on what I've read.
Right.
And it's not necessarily.
And again, we're still learning about this and personality, psychology of personality. It's a very fascinating, interesting topic, and we don't know a lot of things yet. Like we're studying the brain and how where society operates and how it impacts children and they're growing up, the environment, everything. The interesting thing, yes, that you bring up, I was at a trauma conference a couple of years ago, and just like a little bit of information, they were talking about sociopaths, right? So, which in our terminology we call it like antisocial personality disorder. People who are been already incarcerated for committing crimes, it could be severe crimes. One factor that they all have in common is feeling humiliated at some point in life. Like as a child, of course, as a teenager, young person, being humiliated creates this lack of empathy, lack of regard for other people, their feelings, their well-being, their just basically because they were treated this way.
Yeah, but we don't feel sorry for them because they had a chance to switch to another mode.
But do you think that is the main reason why narcissists usually don't admit that they are narcissists? Even when you make them face, they don't recognize it and they don't admit it.
Yes, and we call it narcissistic injuries. At some point in their life, something harmful happened that triggered that response to life and developed that personality. Because after all, it's a personality type that's called narcissistic personality disorder, right? And personality doesn't change. Yes, there's certain things we know now that can help person adjust or cope with their world, and that they're not happy people. And you would, from the outside, you may see them like, oh, everything is perfect. I myself was in a relationship like that for many years. I was married to someone with these traits. Again, I'm not going to say that's the diagnosis, but and from the outside, it looked like it's picture perfect. Everything's amazing. And there are different types of narcissism, right? There's the neurotic type. There's more of like, I would, maybe call it like communal narcissists, like new form. We're trying to differentiate between them, where a person may not necessarily be so vicious because their agenda, their main goal in life is to look amazing in the eyes of the public, the society, the friends, the family,
Definitely
everything.
100%.
And they may not be as vicious, but again, what you can see from the outside is completely different than what's happening behind the closed doors, right? And when you, narcissists are very good at making you feel special in the beginning of your relationship, making you feel like you're the one interest, admiration. Yes, that's kind of how they get you. It's more of like like in Animal Kingdom, it's the perpetrator, right, and the prey, right?
And you feel like totally special at first.
You do, like, this is amazing.
You so like they put you on top of the world, and you feel like king and princess and whatever it is, and then they trying to what happening then? I just wonder how it's all
so they try
to
to isolate you from your circle of friends or
That's
family.
the number one
they
thing.
blame them for being.
They want to become alone, just with him, and then because they don't want. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but they don't want your friends to tell you that something wrong with this relationship. So in this case, they trying to get you away from everyone, from your family, from your friends, from your best friends even. And no, they actually making you only with them because everybody else is bad, but you so special, you so good, you stay with me in this circle. And then like a little and then like you feel like you're they owning you for a while because you're so special and you trust them, you build that trust. And then once you're done with them, you become like yourself.
Well, but sometimes it happens this way, which is actually not a bad outcome. Because it's very difficult to get out of a narcissistic or toxic relationship that involves, a narcissistic behaviors, features, and so on.
Is there a way to identify a narcissist in the beginning of their relationship or friendship?
Would you say so?
In some cases, there's a way. You just got to understand human behavior, and when you see something like, oh, this is too good to be true, right? They are
Cinderella story.
When they're making you feel special, so that could be
special, or like they're fixating on you, and it's almost like
controlling
they start life depends on on you. Their life depends on you. They are seeking admiration. First, they admire you, and they tell you amazing things and how incredible you are and everything, to then later basically put you down and only give that praise when it's advantageous to them, when they want to like bait you, because they become the only person who gives you that admiration, right? They want to build these circumstances. So like when you recognize that,
it sounds like the beginning of a healthy relationship as well. That's why I think that it's hard to define them in the beginning before you get trapped.
Right. And because we tend to idealize people in the beginning of the relationship, because we all so want for it to work out.
This is our nature.
Right. And it's like, oh, I found someone who's, I feel something towards, and it's working, but you got to understand what the other person feels. That's why the best way, to answer your question, in short, obviously it's a very complex question, is to understand what your boundaries are. Not just build them, like there's a lot of talk about building boundaries. Understand what your boundaries are, what you're okay with, what you're not okay with. And when you try to gently establish some boundaries, like, hey, this is not okay. I do have, some other interests, and I love to spend time with you, but I also want to explore these interests and continue doing them, sometimes, separately, or I have this group of friends and sometimes I need my time with them, and you can have your time with them. And when you see them not being okay with it,
here's the big
there's some flags, right? And then, you keep...
That makes sense.
Keep doing it that way, right? And again, if they're fixating on you, and they don't have their own identity, it's almost like they want to become dependent on the emotions. It's all amazing in the beginning stages anyway, right? It's, you're being taken care of, they want to show you the world, great. And, in healthy relationships, it happens that way. But it has to be like a healthy mix of, okay, there's also life, and how do we handle that? Not just the honeymoon phase.
You're separating your own life and life with them. Once you do that, you see the first red flag. You see, oh no, this is me, you, and that's it. There's nobody else. No, that's wrong. I have my friends, I have my work, I have my relationships. Other than you, I have my life. If you want to fixate on me, go
Discover the Enigma difference. Their Silk Pel Oxygen treatment deeply refreshes your skin, and their expert facials give you a natural glow that lasts for weeks. Tackle stubborn pigmentation, acne, or rosacea with their trusted Cyton BBL and Moxie treatments, or try the Forever Young Laser, a favorite in Hollywood for keeping skin youthful. And for quick, pain-free hair removal, the Forever Bare Laser is simply the best. Enigma Medical Spa, where beauty meets science.
So let's say there is a 19-year-old girl watching this interview and she recognizes these symptoms of being in a relationship with a narcissist, let's say. And she's immature, she doesn't have an experience, and she doesn't know how to get out of it. She got addicted to this narcissist relationship with them. How can she get out of this relationship? How can she protect herself and save her sanity?
Well, you guys like to ask provocative questions that don't have a short answer because that takes time and therapy. I would honestly start with a different angle, like how to recognize that you're getting into this toxic relationship with a very self-centered, egotistical person, right? As maybe I said before, have your support system there. Do not isolate yourself from the people around you, from your friends, from people who actually genuinely care about you, and family. Hopefully, this
You have external support.
Yes, and you can talk to your people at any point, and you know that you have a place to go. Let's say she needs to get out. She needs to know that if she's so in it and he made her dependent on himself, then she needs to have a place to go.
My answer is short. Get the hell out of there. Run away. Because if you have a few red flags, you're in it already. Even if you're 19 or 59 years old, it doesn't matter. You can be immature in 59 years old. Immature woman who never actually faced the narcissist. And all of a sudden, when she have all her, let's say, strategies formed, but she never get into this before, and she thinks that that's perfect relationship. She was waiting all for her life.
What about a woman married to a narcissist and they have kids and she never worked and she depends on this person, and she has an excuse that even if I want to get out of the relationship, but she has an excuse that
we will need a separate interview for that. That's a very issue.
That's a long way out.
So first, have a support system, have a place to go if you need to. Second, listen to your intuition. When things are not going well, when you're not feeling secure in this relationship, when your gut feeling is telling you something is off, be mindful of your choices and where you are, right? Again, if it's too good to be true for a long period of time, not just, first impression or feeling in love, but it continuously happens that way, it probably is.
Listen to your intuition.
And don't fall in love all with the whole your heart and soul right away. Just give yourself a distance from that person at first and watch.
Don't live the person's life, live your life.
Exactly. Just separate yourself.
We would be out of business if people could do that.
Yeah,
that's why we're discussing it, because it's a complex topic, and it's not easy to get out.
And we'll finish what we started maybe in 10 sessions, right? Maybe eventually we get to it.
Another point, right? Focus on yourself. What do you want to do in life? If you don't know, try to work on it, right? To establish yourself, to discover yourself. You have to have your own interests. Even if there's something, like a little hobby on the side, focus on developing your own identity. You can't be fixated on someone else, and you can't provide that amount of admiration to someone else constantly, right? There has to be a healthy balance. If another point to go back to the narcissist, you start recognizing it when if you withdraw from the praising them all the time, from making them the center of your universe, they will act out. They will resist. They will
And that
try
includes
to
all of
get
your
it.
thoughts, your behavior, your daily routine.
Right. So and originally, just guys have an independent sense of self, because the narcissist is trying, first and foremost, they're trying to take it away from you, so you become dependent on them. And
Financially dependent, emotionally dependent. They even will create that world for you where you're gonna feel very secure in it in the beginning, where you feel completely comfortable to be dependent on them. Their main goal to separate you from everything what you had before, and now you're completely naked with them in the soul, in your,
And they're
in your
controlling you.
vulnerable.
yeah, and you vulnerable, and when you become too vulnerable, they're gonna act on it. Because the first red flag is that when you say, I'm going out tonight, and your significant other says, oh no, I don't feel it, it's a good company where you're going. Well, it's you to decide with who you're going.
You controlling
when-
your life. Don't let
Well,
anyone to
I
take
mean, if it
control over
repeats,
you.
depending on the
Exactly.
circumstances,
Well,
yes.
if that's a bad company, or that's like a druggist or alcoholics and stuff like that, of course he wants something good for you.
Yeah.
But separate that, where he wants something good for you, or he just wants to be completely
And the main-
center of your life.
Right, and the main point I also wanted to make, which it skips us, but that narcissists cannot be vulnerable, truly vulnerable. If you're in that stage of the relationship where it's deep enough, inevitably people will be vulnerable. Narcissists, they can't show it. To them, it's like dying, basically. So if you see that, that's a sign. That's another sign.
Yeah.
While you're saying it, I already recognize all of the narcissists in my life.
Well, there is many of them, especially in this country where we live, where there's schools for that. Believe it or not, there's books for that, how to hook up the woman, how to manipulate the woman. There is certain psychiatrists who work with those men to teach them, for money of course, how to become the center of somebody and make
That's the following question I want to ask you. Sorry to interrupt. Is there difference between selfishness and narcissism? You're talking about it. That's the question.
That's hard. That's hard.
So it's again is narcissism is more than occasional selfishness, right? It's a pervasive pattern of grandiosity and lack of empathy and consistent need for admiration. That's basically, people can have their needs, and sometimes they can even throw a temper tantrum for not, if you're somehow in the way of them meeting their needs and being patient and things like that. But again, when it's pervasive, when it continues all the time, and they lack empathy. So you are supposed to understand them and how difficult their life is and what hoops they have to go through. But when it comes to you, they don't understand.
Or they pretend that they
In the
understand.
beginning,
And they blame you that you have reaction, that
And
you
we
don't like
get into
something,
the
so
next
that's your
point.
fault because you're reacting.
Right.
Why don't we talk about gaslighting next time?
Oh,
Yes,
that's a
next
good.
time, and we have how they actually develop.
Yeah.
that,
So I
right?
think it's going to be interesting for our for the women's or men's auditorium.
Yeah, next time let's talk about gaslighting, how to protect yourself from gaslighting, and how to even master those gaslighting skills for yourself,
Right,
in
and
order
we
to defend yourself, I
Right, and
guess.
we can develop that habit of how to more or less safely get out of that relationship, depending on how deep you are, of course, which all involves, conflict resolution skills and being able to separate what they're, forcing you to believe versus what the reality actually is about. And that's, within that
And the
frame.
main thing, we all survived this, so you as well willing to survive this, and you're gonna become stronger after that. We're just sharing our experiences in order for you to help you out. And 3 of us, we went through it. We're still alive, so you'll be as well.
I work with a lot of women who have went through it under my watch, including under my watch, and it's not easy, but it's doable. And
You
I've
saw
seen
the
I've
results,
seen it being done. I've seen people freeing themselves.
so there's still hope.
A lot of hope.
I know a lot of my friends, especially female, that suffer from relationship with narcissists. So I know that it's very important topic nowadays. Thank you for sharing your experts. Thank you for sharing your experience. I
hope it's going to help.
I hope we survived it and you will survive it. Protect yourself from
Good
those
luck.
narcissists.
And become even stronger and better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Live your life, build your identity, your core, and don't ever be dependent, right? This is the conclusion we learned from expert Maria Shenkman. Thank you, Diana,
Thank
for
you.
joining
Thank you,
our
Christina.
conversation.
Thank you.
You.
Women empowerment!
Yay!